Hey, this is Irvin Griffin, and welcome to another edition of Grown Man Talk. No kutama on this one. This one, I'm going to talk a little bit about the 30 for 30 special featuring Nature Boy Ric Flair. And let me say this, I liked the special overall. I thought it was very well done, and I thought it was very open and honest, especially about the lifestyle Ric Flair led, about all the great times, but about the downside of it as well. In fact, even one of Ric Flair's admirers, Triple H, even said he uses the life of Ric Flair as an example to the younger wrestlers that he's bringing up, obviously in NXT, to show what you can achieve, but he also talks about the downside of it. But that what I'm really here to talk about, you see here a picture of Ric Flair with hip hop icon Snoop Dogg, who I definitely have had issues with. There was a comment made by Snoop during this 30 for 30, and I'm gonna play the audio right now so you could clearly hear it. I got it turned up, so check out what he said during this. What he was talking about the influence that Ric Flair has had, like on hip hop artists. They also talk about athletes, but I'll talk about the athlete part in just a second. Here's that audio.
Believe me, he was living the lifestyle. As a kid growing up watching Ric Flair, he was very inspirational to myself and a lot of other hip hop artists because he represented what we wanted to be. We wanted to be Ric Flair. We wanted to be flamboyant and, the Kiss Dylan, Willing and Dylan. We wanted to be all of that. He was a part of our culture and our life. That's why we love him and we cherish him, and we've always held him high in the black community because Rick is one of us.
Okay. The first half of that comment I didn't have an issue with because I'd say being flamboyant and all that. Although I do turn to look aside eye a little bit at Snoop Dogg because I'm like, honestly, the first guy you should mention really is Muhammad Ali. And the ironic thing, Muhammad is mentioned in this piece. It's funny that Ric Flair mentions Muhammad Ali when talking about his character. He said, people. You asked me why people love me, and then he said, "I'll give you a good example. Why did people love Ali?" And it's kind of ironic that the white guy, and I'm not trying to make this too much about race or mention race much in his, but it has to be mentioned here. It's funny that the white guy who the black man is trying to emulate will point to another black man as part as part of his own inspiration. But getting back seriously, since when did the black community cherish some Ric Flair as a whole? Since when, Snoop? Now, don't get me wrong. I was an admirer of his work in the ring, his and of the character. The outside the ring guy, not so much. Because let's be honest, there was a lot wrong with Ric Flair too. And I think people in general, but especially in the black community, we tend to hold up non black people. And let's be honest, Ric Flair is clearly a white man. We tend to hold them up in more stature than we do our own at times. And that comment struck me when he said that. I'm like, really? Really, Snoop? Really? And just so people are not mistaken, here it is one more time. Just listen to it one more time and tell me if you think I'm crazy. Okay? And to me, And I got some more to say, but let me play this one more time, just so no one is confused.
Being that cool, crazy, say what you want, do what you want, live this lifestyle. And believe me, he was living the lifestyle. As a kid growing up watching Ric Flair, he was very inspirational to myself and a lot of other hip hop artists because he represented what we wanted to be. We wanted to be Ric Flair. We wanted to be flamboyant and, the kiss stealing, willing and dealing. We wanted to be all of that. He was a part of our culture and our life. That's why we love him and we cherish him, and we've always held him high in the black community because Rick is one of us.
Okay, that last part I'm gonna take issue with first. No, Ric Flair is not one of us. No, he is not. Okay, Ric Flair, and nothing again, and this ain't a knock really on him, but Ric Flair, best of my knowledge, never grew up in the black community. Ric Flair grew up from privilege. Most black people didn't. Though he was not one of us. He didn't grow up in poverty. Okay? Like a lot of black folks. And not every black dude or person of color grew up in poverty. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying Ric Flair was a white kid who was adopted, who grew up in a privileged home. Okay? So, no, he is not one of us. And I can't stand when people say, especially our own people say, Ric Flair was the first black world champion. No, he's not. To me, I don't know. It just rubs me the wrong way. And I'm not nowhere near as militant as I once was. But certain things still rub me the wrong way. To me, that's disrespectful to the Junkyard Dog, who was the top guy in Mid-South for a few years in the 80s, even though that wasn't a world championship. Still, he was the top guy. He was offered the North American Heavyweight Champion, which was the top belt in that territory. To me, that's disrespectful to Iceman King Parsons, who was the top guy in world class. He was their American Heavyweight Champion, which was top belt. He was arguably the first black world champion, because when they changed it to the World Class Heavyweight Championship, some considered it a world title. So he was arguably the first black world champion. It's certainly a slap in the face to Ron Simmons, who was officially considered the first black world heavyweight champion in 1992 when he defeated Vader for the belt. I remember watching that at home on television, getting ready to go to college. And let me tell you something, that was a big inspiration to me. Big inspiration. It's disrespectful in a way to Booker T, who is the only other man that was WCW world champion, only other man of color to ever win the WCW world championship besides Ron Simmons. I don't know. That comments like that, if you want to admire, the qualities that the character brought, the flamboyancy, like the first part about with the athletes, like stealing some of his lines, in chants, getting themselves fired up for practice or fired up for a game in the dressing room. That didn't bother me. I mean, because a lot of athletes do that, black and white. A lot of them do it. So that part didn't bother me. But the Snoop Dogg comment, that rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. Now, overall, I like this ESPN 30 for 30. But that little section right there, that bugged me. It bugs the hell out of me when people say Bill Clinton was the first black president. I'm like, no, he wasn't. He was a white man from the Midwest. Talk about, oh, he has Negro tendency. Why do we even want to associate that? The stuff he was doing with black people, okay? Why do we? But then we get mad when other folks stereotype us. I'm just saying, man, we have some dysfunction going on. For real. And when I see stuff like that, I don't care if you was even joking. And I'm sure there's some right now that will listen to me. And I hate to say it, some of them will be black that will mock what I'm saying and everything. Just try to shut me up and this and that. But as soon as somebody non-black does that to your face, y'all be the first ones complaining. I mean, for real, sometimes I think we really thrive on dysfunction. And yeah, maybe I'm in my feelings, but I had a real problem with what Snoop, especially the latter half, with what Snoop Dogg said. I mean, I I won't say admire. I like the I like the character of Ric Flair and all, but I liked his work in the ring. But to say that he was somebody, I cherished and this and that. As a wrestling fan, yes. But as a black man, no. If I'm going to cherish anybody, I'm going to cherish somebody like Muhammad Ali, who had a lot of the same good qualities and faults of a Ric Flair. You know what I mean? I'm going to look for examples of my own before I go look for examples in somebody else's culture. I mean, we are bad for that. I mean, much as I love Bruce Lee, we'll embrace him over Jim Kelly or Michael Jai White. And Michael Jai White is arguably just as fast as feet, and was even it is a bigger built man than Bruce was. And I'm not trying to put down Bruce Lee, because I'll still look at some Enter the Dragon. But I'm just saying, we have a bad habit of wanting to hold up people who don't look like us when we got people right here. And that's not a put down to, again, that's not a put down to Ric Flair. And that's not a put down to the example I just used, Bruce Lee. But we got people right here in the black community who have done just as much, or who have put up both good and bad examples for us to follow and to learn from what not to do. I mean, inadvertently, there's been people in my life who has achieved greatness, but I've also learned from them inadvertently how not to be in certain aspects of life. I'm not going to say no names, but basically, just to wrap this up, because I don't want to go too far ranting, but that comment rubbed me the wrong way. It did. I mean, Snoop is a grown man. He can think whatever foolish thoughts he wants, but that one rubbed me the wrong way a bit. Anyway, that's it for this edition of Grown Man Talk. I'm Irvin Griffin.